What's up, boys and girls? This is Spit Logic, and today I am really excited to share with you my recent discovery of creating key groups using the MPC One Plus. In this video, I'm going to go over two different ways of creating those key groups. One is a more easier, more quicker way to do it by using internal sounds on your instrument. And the other way is to use external instruments, external sound generation modules, and bringing that into your MPC One Plus to create those key groups. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. So before we get started in this, we're just going to go quickly over the settings, specifically with the MicroKorg, which I'm using as my source for creating this key group. Number one, you want to put your MicroKorg and go to your MIDI settings right here with the MIDI channel. Just ensure that your MIDI channel is corresponding with what you have in your MPC One Plus. We're going to stick with channel 1 for that, MIDI channel 1. I think it's 16 channels total. When you go over here to the next part where it says local on and off, you can turn it off or keep it on. Essentially, local on and off is just determining if the keys on the MicroKorg are going to be able to affect the sound generation from the MicroKorg. So if you turn it off, the keys will not affect the sound generation. It'll only be affected from something externally. Then of course here on the clock, you have internal, external, and then automatic. You want to go with external. I want to base what I have on the MicroKorg, the timing of it, on the MPC One. That'll be the master clock. And then one more part on here, if you want to go to the global positioning right here, where it has position towards that last part, you have the pre and the POS, the PRE. You want to go with that pre-RE. POS essentially is all of the different programs on the MicroKorg being internally driven. This allows it to be externally, to allow MIDI messages from external to come into your MicroKorg. I do have a converter for the purposes of this. I do have my MIDI plugs going out from the MicroKorg, and that corresponds to a USB that goes into the MPC One. I could have used MIDI to MIDI. I just don't have that cable right now, but going forward, I probably will go from MIDI to MIDI into the MPC One Plus. So now that you have that done, what we'll do is kind of go over, I guess, another way of creating a key group, a quicker way, not necessarily an easier way, and not necessarily the best kind of way. So essentially, when I start my programs, it always starts with the drum program, which is where you want to kind of start off with. And you want to go ahead and browse and try to find just a singular sample, a single piece of sound, and start that way. So we'll go into browse, and we're looking into places. Go into my Mark II SD card, import, and let's see, there's some 24-bit samples, one shots. We'll just do a quick one shot. How about that one right there? So I'm going to hit the pad right there. You see it's lit up, and then when I hit this button or the load button, that particular sample is now loaded on to my drum pad. So I'll go back to main, and this is where it is. You can even see a visual representation of it right there. I'm gonna go ahead and go to full level, so it's always tapping at the fullest level. From there, I'm gonna double tap the screen, and then you're gonna get into the settings specific for your samples. For this particular sample that you have right here, and you see where it is on the pad, and you see the track name, which is the program, which is a drum program. Right here, you see this little keyboard at the top of your screen, kind of towards the top right of your screen. If I push that button, it's going to automatically change. You see even the color has changed on the sample, and now it's synth 06, still on the track, but it's now called a synth. You have now just converted it into a key group, and you can see right there that same sample, but now it has a melodic scale on it based on these pads. And even if you go back to main, you can see right now it has that little key group icon right now instead of the drum kit. Your drum kit still exists, it's still there, and that original sample is still there, but now you have a separate key group that acts as your instrument. Now, one of the downfalls of this is that you have to play it monophonically instead of polyphonically. What that means is that I can't play more than one key, more than one pad at the same time. So I'm not able to do any sort of chords with it because it can only play one key at a time because it's just a single sample. So now that we've done it, the faster way of kind of creating a key group using one sample, let's do it let's call it the more refined way of creating that key group. So we're going to start off by creating a new track, and we're going to go with a MIDI track. So you're going to do two things. So number one, you're going to create that MIDI track. And then right after that, what I like to do, I like to create an audio track. And this audio track is going to monitor everything that's going on as I'm playing with the instrument, playing with the sounds, and when I finally get to recording the sounds. So in this audio, the monitor typically starts as off. I'm going to put it on merge so that everything is being heard on the audio track. So the MicroKorg audio port, I have it plugged into there. And then you should be able to hear sounds on your MicroKorg, from your MicroKorg into your MPC One. So we're going to go back to our MIDI, and we're going to set up our MIDI and ensure we have the right settings on here in order for that MIDI to work. So like we said before, we have it on MIDI channel 1. We're going to make sure that we stay on MIDI channel 1. For the MIDI output port, I'm going to put in this particular thing. So it's not going to show up as the MicroKorg. This is showing up as the converter that I have between the MicroKorg and the MPC One. So now when I hit a key, not only are you hearing the audio, but you see right here, this is denoting that there is something being pressed in my MIDI. So right now my MicroKorg is acting somewhat as a MIDI controller. Additionally, using the inputs for all ports, now my pad also has the ability to control my MicroKorg's keys. How do we go from using a MIDI, using the sounds on this MIDI, and going into creating a key group? So the first thing that you're going to do while you're in this MIDI channel, you're going to hit the sampler button here on your MPC One Plus. Hitting that sampler button is going to show up this screen, and you see right here at the top left, input 1 and 2, that's going to be your two inputs right here. You have a couple of options for doing it internally of the MPC One, and then if you're going to go mono, input 1 or input 3, input 1 through 4, but we're going to stick with input 1 and input 2. I'm going to press down on this little magic keyboard that you have right here. And by pushing it down, it's going to give me a lot of different options for how I want to metabolize all of the different sounds into my MPC One. The first part on here is going to be the note range, and that's essentially going to give you the octaves that you want. So I think the more options that you have, the better, but you want to just kind of be careful of not going too low because you're not going to use anything that's too low, or you don't want to go too high because it'll be a little bit ridiculous in my opinion. So we'll just go from C0 and we'll go up to C6. So 6 different octaves. I mean, I think that's a lot, but I don't think that's too many. Scrolling down on here, you'll see there is a portion of it that has different layers, velocity-based layers. Essentially, that's going to determine the different sounds that you want to do based on how hard you press the different keys or the different pads or whatever you're controlling once you make that key group. So the more layers that you have on it, the more options you have for how softly or how hard it's going to sound. And just for the purposes of this, let's just do every other one, 3, 5, and 7. So we have essentially 4 different layers, 4 different velocity layers on here. The note length is how long the note is going to be held down, and then the tail is going to be how long after it presses down it continues to sample that particular key or that particular note. Right here, you have the option of naming it. So let's just name this key group. I can't spell. Now under looping, you have a few options on here for looping. So if a key is pressed down and you keep that key pressed down, what the loop is going to do is it's going to continue that sound going forward instead of it ending as just a single one shot. So if you do want it to loop, typically that loop is going to start a little bit after the key is actually pressed and a little bit before the loop actually ends. So if you want to just base it on that, that's going to allow you looping. You do have the ability to turn it off to where the looping doesn't happen, but we'll just keep it on and then alternating reverse forward. So if it's going forward, it's just going to go forward and start back at the end again and continue to loop that way. Alternating would do like a ping pong effect. We'll go back and forth for alternation, and then reverse, it'll ping and then reverse back. And then that's how the loop is going to be done. And those are going to be the basic settings. There's some other settings on here that I don't even touch, I don't mess with, and I'm not going to try to explain something that I don't understand. But essentially, you're going to hit do it, and that is going to start the process. And as you can hear right now, as you're starting the process, it's going to start off really low and it's the same tone and it's doing all of those different layers. To me, I don't know if you've ever been in one of those hearing booths doing like a hearing test, but this kind of reminds me of doing a hearing test. And once it's complete, you're going to have another key group that is created similar to what we did before. Now, and of course, the difference is this one. You can play the keys at the same time. Additionally, when you go to here, you can make it a progression. Or even do chords. Now, if you've made a key group and you want to keep that key group, you want to use it for maybe a later song or a later track, you go to that menu button, and here on the main menu down here at the bottom, you see that little save icon. You're going to press it and it's going to give you options for what to save. Make sure you're on that particular key group at the time, and then you're going to hit that button, hit that key group button right there. And then of course we already kind of saved it as key group. That's going to be the file name, and then just determine where you want to save it, where you want that done, either internally or on one of your external drives. And then right there you're going to save it, and it's going to save it. You see it going through all those samples, and now you have that key group. So if I want to reuse that same thing, I could just start a new project, look for a key group, go to browse, go internally into my Mark II, and here I like to save it under my programs. This is where I have all of my keys, and there you see right there the key group. I'll just load that, and you see all the samples loading up, and I'm back. I think the implications of creating your instruments using these key groups is very vast. I don't see a lot of things holding you back from molding and creating your own sounds, and then molding and creating that into a song for your own instrumentation. Purchasing the MPC One Plus, I knew I was getting into one of those DAW in the boxes. And one of the things about the DAWs that have taking me away from using DAWs is this sea of software instruments, plugins, and VSTs, really that don't really meet the mark or meet expectations because there's so many of them out there. You have the tendency to kind of fall into this rabbit hole of just spending money trying to get that next instrument pack or that next kit in order to enhance your music making, when by using the key groups, you have the instrumentation, you have the ability to make your own instruments right there at your fingertips. I'd be curious, just from your perspective, what is your relationship with key groups? Do you create your own key groups when you're dealing with making your music? What are the sources that you're using when it comes to making those key groups? Is it a synth? Is it from a DAW? Do you use actual instruments to create those notes and create those keys? As always, I thank you for the view and I thank you for the listen. And until next time, peace.